Welcome to the Unlimited Sports Preview Show. I'm Brady Alderson, joined today alongside Blake Mace and Matthew Mills. So on the show, we will look back at Nebraska's first two NCAA tournament wins in program history.
Look forward to Nebraska's third meeting against Iowa in the Sweet 16.
And we'll be joined by Harmon Johnson for Around the Corn.
The sweetest week in Nebraska basketball history is upon us, and we're breaking it all down right here on Nebraska Nightly. Welcome back inside the studio and welcome to this NCAA tournament edition of the Unlimited Sports Preview Show. Well, guys, the Huskers might not have been at Pinnacle Bank Arena last weekend, but boy, did it sound like a home game for the Big Red.
Boy, did it. In Oklahoma City, that was a loaded crowd, just complete sea of red. Vanderbilt obviously had their section that was pretty much empty behind their bench, but other than that, it was all big red in that arena.
And then possibly broke the decibel meter from their 115 decibels, was it? I mean, Can you believe that? They took over Oklahoma City, even down in the Brickyard district.
Yeah, one thing that really got those Husker fans riled up were the 23 threes that Nebraska was able to knock down in the opening weekend of the tournament. And most surprisingly for the Huskers, Berkay Buchtengel found his stroke from behind the arc.
Yeah, he finally was able to be confident with it and able to get rolling, and that led him to be able to just have confidence with it again. That's something that he didn't have, something like Cale Jacobson. Cale Jacobson couldn't find a shot, and then finally Berkay was able to find a shot.
I believe we do have audio from Fred Hoiberg's press conference on Monday.
It was great to see him hit that one. It was early in the left corner where he hit it and then hit that huge one in the second half. But again, hopefully that flips something because it is all about confidence. BK's got a nice stroke and he shoots it well in practice and in shooting sessions. So to be able to raise up there in that setting and one of the most pressure-filled games that our guys will ever play in and hit a couple of huge ones was big. I gave him the game ball even after he squeezed Sam's headband sweat on me during the interview, which pissed me off. But yeah, I still gave him the game ball for knocking down those threes.
Bryce Samford started off the tournament by hitting 7 threes en route to setting a Nebraska school record for made threes in a single tournament game, and it seemed like shooting was just contagious for the Big Red this weekend.
Yeah, Berkay Buchtengel, obviously Coach Hoiberg talked about his 2 shots. One, the first of the game, knocking down a corner 3, no hesitation from Berkay Buchtengel there, knocked it down, and then another one from him in the second half. Made both of his threes in that game. Just a huge performance from him. And Rank Mass got it going too. Made 3 of his first 4. Got the Huskers that big first half lead and got the crowd into it, which was good for the Huskers.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, talk about Rank Mass. He's someone that has gotten a lot of flack from the fan base a little bit at times because he hasn't been as confident either down low grabbing the rebounds or putting those hook shots in, classic Rank Mass hook shot. But the 3 points to shoot the game, it's just like vintage Rank Mass where he's just able to pop it up the high arc that goes down and in.
And the confidence from Fred Hoiberg to give that confidence to his players, not only the big man in Berkay Buchtengel and Rank Mass, but we saw Cale Jacobson hit big threes against Iowa down the stretch. We saw Jamarcus Lawrence hit a game-winning 3 against Illinois early in the season. If those players can continue to grow that confidence throughout, all those guys and Braden Frager as well, that would be huge for the Huskers.
Yeah, it'd be very huge. Cale Jacobson is someone that I look as the X factor for this Iowa game coming up later, simply because when he was playing in that game against Vandy, he didn't have any points. He had 3 turnovers, and it was just a lot of difficult stuff out there. It seemed like he really wasn't ready for that moment and wasn't able to get settled in. And, you look at his last time against Iowa, he was able to show up and show out there, especially late in overtime.
Yeah, really glad that the Huskers get another game with Cale Jacobson. Saw what he did in the Crown last season. Huskers probably don't win the Crown without Cale Jacobson. Then against Vanderbilt, just wasn't his best game. So really glad that he gets another chance to go play against Iowa and he doesn't get to end his season on that note. But now, guys, we got to talk about the end of the game. That final sequence, the last 7 minutes, really were back and forth the whole way. And then that final sequence was just epic.
It really was, wasn't it?
I mean, you had big shots from both sides. Bryce Samford was able to get into the lane, make some mid-range shots. Tyler Nickel and Tyler Tanner, both guards from Vanderbilt, were making shots from all over the place. It was back and forth those final 7 minutes, and it all came down to what I really think started that sequence was a Sam Hoiberg putback. Smallest player on the court, gets to the rim, gets the putback. They go down, get a stop on D, and we all know what happened from there.
It just seemed like everybody was in the right position. The same team that went 20-0 was the same team that won this game. And it was simply because, again, everyone was in the right position. People were there, Sam Hoiberg with that putback. But then it was also just simply making the shots. Because you look at that first Iowa matchup, Nebraska couldn't make those shots in the later stretch, but this time everything was going in, so it was able to just extend that lead just a little bit further and further until it got really close there in the end.
Yeah, now let's go to that Tanner shot. I mean, halfway down, half quarter, would have sent Nebraska home. What's going through your guys' heads?
I mean, for the fans, it's do or die in that moment. If that shot goes in, everyone in Oklahoma City that went out to go show up for those Huskers, they're just not happy. They're leaving sad. They're a sad drive back to all the way up to Lincoln, and there had been conversation throughout the entire tournament about some balls being overinflated, which who knows whether that is true or not true. But in the end, it worked out for the Husker fans. But boy, unbelievable performance from Tyler Tanner, and an unbelievable shot as well.
Yeah, and I think from that, for me, I was looking at that timeout, that play that just happened. That's what was all in my mind. Oh, my gosh, Frager to the lane, a great cut, and then was able to put it up with the left hand. And I don't think Vandy was really expecting him to do with left hand. Maybe a lost scouting report on him, is able to pop it up and then finish with that. But at the same time, I was worried about that. I didn't even really, they had the inbound, and I wasn't even thinking about it. And next thing I know, I look over, and the ball's almost in the hoop, and I thought it was done.
Yeah, maybe a little less PSI, and Tanner is a March Madness hero for the rest of history, right?
For sure.
Last weekend was the most exciting weekend in Husker basketball history. Coming up next, we'll preview a game that has a chance to be even more electric as Nebraska takes on arch rival Iowa for a chance to go to the Elite Eight. All that still to come on the Unlimited Sports Preview Show.
Social media is a daily part of many college students' lives, something we've become used to, but it can also be overwhelming and draining. Studies show that taking regular breaks from social media reduces stress and improves mental health. Too much screen time has been proven to increase anxiety, while stepping away helps you reconnect with the world around you. Take a break. Protect your mental health.
Nearly 1 in 3 Husker students struggle with food insecurity. Husker Pantry addresses food insecurity and a welcoming space by providing free food and personal items to UNL students in need. Due to high demand, the pantry often runs out of essential items. Help keep the pantry stocked by donating the most needed items. From canned food to personal items and cleaning supplies, you can make a difference by donating. Learn how to donate by visiting pantry.unl.edu.
The need for blood never stops. And at the Nebraska Community Blood Bank, your blood could help save lives. Right now, only 7% of the population donates blood. But imagine if there were more.
We're sitting at below a 7-day level of supply of all blood types across the board. So every blood type is important, and we need all donors of all types to come in and donate right now.
At the Nebraska Community Blood Bank, they believe that all types make a strong blood supply.
Welcome back to the Sweet 16 edition of the Unlimited Sports Preview Show. It's been a storybook season for Nebraska so far as they now stand on hallowed ground here in the NCAA tournament. And for Iowa, it's just as good of a story as first-year head coach Ben McCollum has taken them past 1-seed Florida into the Sweet 16.
I mean, for Iowa, what a first year. You look at Fran McCaffrey, and they always got close, but they could never get to, the Sweet 16 since 1999 was the last time that they've been there. And now they're finally able to find the X factor and get going. I look at other players that have been able to make a jump than earlier in the season. Iowa, they were up and down. They really could not find a lot of consistency, and that's what led them to be in the mid-pack of the Big Ten. They now enter this game coming up with Nebraska 23-12. But again, they were 10-10 in the conference going into the Big Ten tournament. And so that up and downness, that a little bit of turbulence that they weren't able to find their solid ground, now they're able to get rolling. And they did just that against their first 2 matchups, and especially against the number 1 seed Florida.
You would have to think they do have a little bit more momentum than Nebraska. Momentum in this game will be huge, but Iowa just beat a 1 seed. They just beat Florida, and a much bigger team, and they did it with physicality. They get better on the boards. They were overall just more physical, which was huge for them. We hadn't really seen that out of them. Bennett Sturtz wasn't his 20-point-per-game scorer as he usually was, 13 points, but he was passing well. 5 assists for him. He was deadly on the pocket pass, finding other guys cutting. So it'll be an important game for everyone to stay strong on defense and be physical.
Yeah, and the coaches' duel in this one is going to be surely something to note. Fred Hoiberg, Big Ten Coach of the Year, Ben McCollum, first-year head coach, and he wins everywhere he goes.
I mean, both coaches have very high basketball IQ. You look at Fred Hoiberg making the adjustments in the second half, especially late in that game to go to that zone look to throw Vandy off. Now, I don't know if that can be applied against Iowa. Again, these are two teams that know each other so well. But I look at Alvaro Figueres as the kind of the X factor. When he last played against Nebraska, when it was the overtime win for the Huskers, he played 30 minutes but only had 6 points, and he was 0 for 3 from the three-point line, but he was clutch against Florida. Right now, it seems like it's firing on all cylinders for Florida. But again, I think with this matchup being just two teams that know each other so well, what's going to happen? Are we going to get that low, slow, trugging game that we saw at Carver Hawkeye, or are we going to see more of the little fast-paced one where teams are able to make shots in PBA?
Anything could happen in this third matchup of the season. And back to the head coaches, Ben McCollum on all levels of college basketball, the 5th most winning coach of all time, boasting an 80.5% win rate. Unbelievable resume for him.
Yeah, and back to that 1-3-1 zone. I don't think Nebraska wins without it. Fred Hoiberg credited Nate Loenzer for that idea, but just an all-around going to be a duel come Thursday. And Iowa might be the lower seed in this one as they currently sit as slight underdogs, but Bennett Sturtz and Ben McCollum have proven to be championship-grade combination, and they showed that against Florida.
I mean, again, he wins everywhere he goes. He won at Drake. He won in his first season here at Iowa, already a Sweet 16 appearance. I mean, what other coach has been doing that this year? And there's not many coaches that do that in general.
And implementing a scheme, too. It's a scheme that works. Again, they are slow. Nebraska also runs a little bit of a slower offense compared to other teams. But they just have a complete identity. And that's something that Iowa has not had in a while. You know, with Fran McCaffrey, we knew it was their high-flying, fast-powered offense that was going, but it wasn't their defense like this team is, which makes every possession matter. And against Florida, it's not like that was just a completely low-scoring game. That got up into the 70s for both teams. And so for him to be able to get that rolling, get their team going on all facets of the game, it's really impressive. And then for Iowa, again, just jumping from the mid-pack to being a confident team in March Madness, I don't think really anybody expected that.
I think that shows how good the Big Ten has been. You talked about a 10-10 record for Iowa in the Big Ten. Now we've got 6 Big Ten teams in the Sweet 16. The Big Ten, just a great basketball conference this season.
Probably the best conference in basketball. 2 more teams than any other team in the Sweet 16 this year, 6 of them. And again, UCLA missing one of their best players. If they were in 2, that'd be 7 teams. That'd be almost half of the teams in the Sweet 16 from the Big Ten.
Yeah. Well, Iowa showed their physicality, out-rebounding Florida on the offensive boards, but Rick Mass and the Huskers are prepared to bring that same level of intensity to the glass.
You got to stand your ground. We talked about it in film this morning. Like we gotta be physical, take it in the chest, and it's gonna be a physical battle. So yeah, it's gonna be tough, but it's also a game of will, and whoever imposes their will on the other team is gonna win.
The first time these teams played, Nebraska got dominated in the paint. What needs to change for the Huskers this time around?
I mean, it's clear the rebounding, but it's something that they've worked on even later in the Big Ten tournament and then even starting March Madness. You saw it against Troy, the physicality that Nebraska had knocked Troy out of the game. Troy was able to make quite a few shots in the beginning, but after all, Rink Mass finally had a good game, getting a few boards, and everyone else played up to snuff. You know, Berke Buchtengel not only having his best offensive performance of the year in a Husker jersey against Vanderbilt, but at the same time, it's his intensity on defense that also makes it better. And so being able to get those boards, every fan knows it. The Husker fans knows it. Iowa fans know it. It's just going to be a battle to see who can get the boards and the extra chances at possessions.
Every game the Huskers have lost this season, they were losing the rebound battle. That first game against Iowa, 13 less boards than Iowa. The second game still didn't beat Iowa, just down to -3 on the boards, though. So they don't have to win it, but if they keep it close, they're going to have a really, really good chance at winning this game. And it's going to, again, come from physicality. Find a body, put a body on a body, and Iowa shoots a lot of threes. For those long rebounds, guard's going to have to run after the ball, dive on the ball. Those plays that we've seen Cale Jacobson and Sam Hoiberg make all year are going to be important for them to continue doing into this tournament game.
If Nebraska can't hang with Iowa in rebounding, is there still a path to them winning this game?
I mean, I think there is because they simply have sharpshooters. Anybody, if they can get rolling, even a confident Frager. I think if you look at the first 2 Iowa games that they played, Frager wasn't as confident, and especially in that overtime game, you know, we started to see him get a step back in there, get his touch. But if he plays anywhere close to like he did for Vandy, then I think that could be an X factor that maybe Iowa doesn't necessarily have, because we know that they have potentially a 5th man in like Fulgaris right now. But at the same time, it's a production that's been up and down all year. It can't last forever, and it could be the breaking point in this game.
And I think that because of that rebound deficit, that it will be hard for the Nebraska Cornhuskers to overcome. they're going to have to make shots. If they're going to lose that rebound battle, they're going to have to really, really make shots. In that first game, they shot under 40% from the field. Second game, they were over 50%. So that's going to be the key. If they can't get on the boards, they're going to have to knock down shots.
Well, after the break, Harmon Johnson will take us around the corn on the Unlimited Sports Preview Show.
Done for the day?
Yeah, just kind of maxed out on people.
Is there anything you wanted to talk about?
You know, thanks for asking. I have been feeling just kind of off lately.
Do you want me to
Concerned about a friend? Just ask and refer them to counseling and psychological services at UNL.
Of the 40 million tons of plastic waste generated in the U.S. in 2021, only 5%, or 2 million tons, was recycled. Make sure you do your part in keeping Anderson Hall clean. For more information on recycling statistics, visit epa.gov today.
Welcome to this edition of Around the Corn. I'm Harmon Johnson. As we continue to set up Nebraska's Sweet 16 matchup against Iowa, the spring sports season has gotten into full swing with baseball and softball out to extremely hot starts. Recently ranked Husker baseball came out on top over the Kansas State Wildcats in a back-and-forth midweek battle on the road last night. Freshman Drew Grigo, the Bellevue West product, had 2 home runs to his name in Manhattan, and Dylan Carey broke out of his slump with his 56th career double, tying his head coach Will Bolt's mark from 1999 to 2002 in that category. Carey and the number 24 ranked Huskers are 14-1 in their last 15 contests, and after starting the Big Ten season 5-1, they're going to be looking for a home series win starting on Friday night against the Indiana Hoosiers. All 3 games will be streamed on Big Ten Plus. The other diamond sport, Husker softball, is doing what most people expected them to do through the first half of the season as they sit as the number 9 team in the land at 24-5. They'll be tested this weekend, though, as power-hitting UCLA comes to Bowlin Stadium, 2 spots above the Scarlet and Cream in the rankings. The Bruins have hit 100 home runs as a team, which is nearly a third of their 300-plus hits leaving the yard. Friday night's matchup will be at a special start time of 8 p.m. as the game will be nationally televised on FS1. The middle game of the series is after the spring football game at 2 o'clock on Big Ten Plus, and Sunday's series finale will be at noon, televised in the state on Nebraska Public Media. Both teams are undefeated and in the top 3 in conference play, so this series could be a key factor later in April during the Big Ten tournament. And of course, being in Nebraska, you cannot talk about this weekend's sports lineup without mentioning the spring football game on Saturday at 11 a.m. After 14 players, including Emmett Johnson, Dane Key, Sayer Wright, and Heinrich Harburg, participated in Pro Day on Wednesday, it's time for the new guys to take to Tom Osborne Field in front of a crowd. Nebraska is returning up to playing a traditional spring exhibition, partially due to new transfer rules which don't allow a spring portal, and partially due to the less attended and less well-received spring games format from last year. This year, Nebraska Athletics will be donating proceeds from the ticket sales for the spring game to wildfire relief efforts as part of the Helping the Heartland campaign after parts of the state experienced evacuations or fire threats earlier this month. And as we wrap up Around the Corn, I want to give some love to some of the other spring sports in action this weekend. Outdoor track and field is in Coral Gables, Florida for the Hurricane Collegiate Invitational hosted by Miami in their first outdoor action of the spring. Men's and women's tennis are both on the court this week as the ladies head to Purdue and Indiana, and the men host Washington and Oregon at the Dillon Tennis Center. And finally, Nebraska soccer continues their spring season in Lawrence on Saturday as they take on Kansas at 1 p.m. That's it for Around the Corn this week. Enjoy the madness, and the guys will return to wrap up the show after this break.
The need for blood never stops. And at the Nebraska Community Blood Bank, your blood could help save lives. Right now, only 7% of the population donates blood. But imagine if there were more.
We're sitting at below a 7-day level of supply of all blood types across the board. So every blood type is important, and we need all donors of all types to come in and donate right now.
At the Nebraska Community Blood Bank, they believe that all types make a strong blood supply.
Tonight on Nebraska Nightly.
Welcome back to the Sweet 16 edition of the Unlimited Sports Preview Show. Well, guys, the 28 wins by Nebraska is a program record, and the 2 wins in the NCAA tournament are 2 more than they had coming into this season. But if Nebraska's historic run comes to an end at the hands of the Iowa Hawkeyes, does that take away from this historic run?
I think it definitely makes the season more sour. I don't think it completely takes away from everything they've done so far this year. A loss to their rival in the NCAA tournament in the Sweet 16, not a great look, but again, 28 wins, the most in program history. Highest ranking they've ever had in program history at number 5 in the nation. Still a phenomenal season for the Huskers, and still, again, not a guarantee they lose, and they're actually favored by 1.5 against Iowa.
Yeah, going off of that, I think, when you look at the Husker fans, they're probably thinking, why does every road lead to Iowa? Especially in the modern day in the Big Ten, it feels like all the major accomplishments, what do they have to go through? They have to go through the Iowa Hawkeyes. And of course, in the most historic year for Husker basketball, they have to end against their rival and a team that they split the series against. But I think that actually favors them splitting the series. It's hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year, but at least they split it. You saw the low end, then you saw the high end. What will this game bring? I personally don't know what to expect because, both teams will be up to their highest potential to get going in this game. So it could be a crazy matchup.
I think a lot of people in the Midwest know about the Nebraska-Iowa rivalry. I think the nation is going to see what it's really like as they square off on the national stage. In the Sweet 16, Houston is going to be packed. Obviously, Nebraska fans are going to travel. We'll see how well Iowa travels, but this is going to be a game that gains national attention because it's not just a random Sweet 16 game. This is Big Ten basketball. This is rivalry basketball. It's going to be an exciting, exciting game to watch.
If you're Nebraska and you lose this game, it just seems like something you'll never hear the end of. Iowa fans can say, even in your best season ever, your best basketball season, we ended that season and we beat you twice.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to mention that. It's just like, that the stakes after the fact, it's not about the season being historic. It's just that there's going to be ultimate bragging rights coming from this game, whether it's the Nebraska fans or the Iowa fans. And I think that's what makes this game so special. Unlike any other games you see in the March Madness tournament, these are not like basketball blue bloods either. That's another cool part about this matchup is that both of these teams have not had success in this tournament to where they'll be able to have such a historic year by pushing it even further. For Nebraska, this is probably one of the best chances you got at going to the Elite Eight. And it's coming against a team, of course, is your rival, but, on paper, it's a game that you should win. Like, Matthew, like you're saying, they are technically favored.
Yeah, and I think that is why it is so nice to see this game highlighted, is because these programs in the past have not been good enough to when they square off. It's been super, super important. This game, though, is important for both teams. Both programs haven't made it this far for the Hawkeyes in over 20 years, for the Huskers ever. So it's important that both these teams get this win.
Yeah, Nebraska fans know how big this rivalry is. Iowa fans know how big this rivalry is. But now finally getting attention on the national stage. And we've talked about what happens if Nebraska loses this game. But if the Huskers are able to pull this off, and dash the tournament hopes of the Iowa Hawkeyes. It just makes that season become that much sweeter, and they'll get a chance to play for a Final Four.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think what's going on with this game is that it's going to, whoever takes a lead out front and able to take control of it. Look at Iowa. They were up 33-31 at half, but it seemed like, okay, Iowa has total control. For Nebraska, they were up at halftime against Vanderbilt. It's whoever's going to be able to get going from there. Again, it's going to be like a bar fight a little bit, or a heavyweight matchup where both teams are going to be slugging it out. You know, Nebraska may go up by 5, but Iowa is going to have to battle back, and they'll be close within it. Or they may be able to take a lead. But I think it's when those first few minutes is, and the first timeout that comes from the media, if whoever's up by then, I think that you got that foundation, it's going to be able to get rolling from there.
Classic Midwest fight is what we are expecting. It's going to be a great game all around, though, and I'm excited to watch. It'll be exciting.
Yeah, overall, it has been a great season for the Huskers and for college basketball fans alike around just the NCAA tournament. It's been exciting.
Yeah, we saw a buzzer beater at the end of the Kentucky-Santa Clara game where Ajige Owe hit that almost half-court shot to send it to overtime. Kentucky ended up winning that game. Another great moment of the tournament was in that Kansas-St. John's game. I know, Brady, you have some thoughts on that, but at the end of the game, 0 seconds on the clock to make that layup is big impressive.
Yeah, I know it's been sort of, people were saying like what, chalk madness or whatever. I don't think that's taken away from it. There's been a lot of great games going on, and I think it shows that maybe, you know, the lower seeds aren't as competitive this year, but you got the in-between seeds like Nebraska having a great year, Iowa finally being competitive. It's these other programs that wouldn't normally have the opportunity to go in there and succeed are now having the chance, and I think fans are kind of overlooking that.
Yeah, maybe the upsets aren't there, but the storylines are surely there with Nebraska getting their first NCAA tournament win, 9-seed Iowa with a first-year head coach all the way in the Sweet 16. Siena almost knocked off Duke. They led for almost that entire game. The high point, half-court shot. I mean, there's been stories all around. It's definitely been an exciting tournament.
Another team that I think is being honestly a little bit overlooked is Texas. Going from the first floor all the way to the Sweet 16 now, it's hard enough to win one NCAA tournament game in a week. Win 3 in a week, onto the second weekend, they have confidence going on. It's going to be exciting to watch them face off this week too.
Yeah, does that momentum continue? You talk about that playing in such a short time span. Do they have the power to keep going? I don't know. It's March Madness. Anything can happen, I guess.
Yeah, it's been an exciting tournament for sure. So thank you all for tuning in to the Unlimited Sports Preview Show. For Blake Mace, Matthew Mills, our director Logan Eby, and his entire team working behind the scenes to make it all go, I'm Brady Alderson. Enjoy the NCAA tournament and have a sweet round of 16.